Previously, we learned and discussed about UN role in Vietnam. Now we have chance to see in detail some key points and watch short videos about UNESCO in Vietnam. Well, UNESCO in Vietnam coordinates international cooperation in the organization's key strategic action areas such as education, sciences, culture, communication, and information. UNESCO Vietnam has supported the government of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam since 1999, touching with the education and culture sectors, and now expanding to contribute comprehensive assistance to the country in all action areas. UNESCO's goal is to contribute to empowering the people of Vietnam, especially the disadvantaged population groups, to fully participate in and benefit from development. Priority programs in the field of education include Education for All (EFA) and Education for Sustainable Development (ESD). Within the field of culture and sciences, UNESCO supports international efforts to protect world heritage and preserve cultural and natural diversity. UNESCO also recognizes the role of information and knowledge as one of the driving forces for sustainable development. UNESCO Vietnam's current program focuses on nationwide activities as well as a geographically targeted intervention in the line with recognized scientific, cultural preservation, and educational needs.
Eight must-see UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Vietnam. 1. Central sector of the Imperial Citadel of Thăng Long, Hanoi. Being the only World Heritage Site in Vietnam to locate in the capital city, Hanoi, the Imperial Citadel of Thăng Long has long been known for its unmatched historical and cultural values. Constructed in the 11th century of the imperial era, the citadel has since transformed and evolved numerous times throughout its long-lasting history. During the Vietnam War, the headquarters of the Communist Party was situated within the site with an impressive underground bunker and an impenetrable war room in case of American bombings. The house was built in 1967, hence the name B-67, Chang'an Landscape Complex. Inscribed in 2014, the Chang'an Landscape Complex is Vietnam's latest attraction to be listed as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO and the first mixed heritage for both its natural and cultural significance. Enjoy a relaxing boat ride as you float along the mellow water to discover the hidden caves and visit elegant temples and pagodas. The water gracefully curves around perching mountain peaks to reveal open valleys filled with lush golden rice paddies on the river banks. Citadel of Ho Dynasty. Perhaps the more obscure destination compared to other World Heritage Sites in Vietnam, the Ho Dynasty Citadel dates back to the 14th century. While the Ho Dynasty itself only lasted 7 years, the citadel, with an imposing arched gateway, is a testament of Vietnamese exceptional ingenuity and superior craftsmanship in a flourishing period. Climb up the towering stone steps to the top of the main gate and have a walk along the wall. You'll fall in love with the scenic view of the serene Vietnamese countryside. 4. Hạ Long Bay. Known for its hipponic, heart-stopping sceneries, Hạ Long Bay has always been a popular travel destination and perhaps the most visited UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Vietnam, attracting millions of visitors each year. Hạ Long Bay entices travelers with an enchanting landscape of magnificent mountainous peaks, rising and piercing throughout the smoothing emerald water. Take a rowing boat inside one of the mystical caves, and you will witness the hidden limestone pillars as they glisten when the light touches the reflective water.
That Vietnam can apply to solve the problems in land management in Vietnam in terms of education, science, and culture.
All right. You guys, tourism is important for this university too, and it's one of our priorities. So for the last 4 years, sustainable tourism for UNESCO, and why when UNESCO did a complete reboot of our country strategy in Vietnam 4 years ago, and sustainable tourism became a priority for us because we said, okay, well, we're involved in cultural heritage, we're involved in natural heritage, and if you are involved in the cultural or natural heritage of this country, you are immediately swept up into sustainable tourism because of the exponential growth of tourism and the opportunities that provided, but also the challenges that it provided for the cultural heritage and also for the natural heritage as well. I think for us, there's been a number of different things that we've been doing, but maybe the most important thing is actually just starting to happen. So one of the first things that we tried to do was just to start to have a little bit more of a dialogue around sustainable tourism in the country, and we were really happy because former Prime Minister Phuc picked up on this. Prime Minister Phuc was from Quang Nam province. I don't know if he was originally from there, but he worked a lot in Quang Nam province, and he was around for the development where Quang Nam province really developed as a tourist hub. And he was also involved in the nomination of Hoi An and Misao World Heritage Sites. And so he asked for a national conference on for UNESCO to present to key provinces recommendations on sustainable tourism. So we did that. The other thing that we started after that was to do projects on sustainable tourism with Halong and also China. But it's also to there are projects which are oriented towards the local community. For us, sustainable tourism is tourism that helps the local community and helps the local culture. The last thing that's starting to come out now is almost the most important. At the end of the day, it is the private sector which is developing the tourism sector. It is the private sector which is developing resorts and golf courses and everything else. I can talk, you can talk, we can talk as much as we like. The private sector acts, the private sector does. So, the key thing is can we start to influence how the private sector thinks about investment? It's true, there has been, the private sector has done a lot of, the private sector the country wouldn't have developed without the private sector. But in the tourism sector, some projects have been good, some projects not so good, and some projects have been disastrous, as we can see. But I always said, if we can influence players like Sovico, if we can influence players like Sun Group, if we can influence players like Fin Group, if we start to have them have another look at the sort of developments and investments that they make, then we change the game. And so this is actually, you saw Madame Tao from Sovico Group. We now have a partnership with Sovico Group. It is the first partnership established between the United Nations and a Vietnamese corporation in history. And so, Sovico, to a certain extent, is leading the way on a bit of a rethink within the private sector about how things are done. The private sector, like everybody else in this country, is starting to think, wow, we've made a lot of money. Wow, a lot of money. But what is our legacy going to be? Maybe actually it's a little bit more than making money. How are we contributing to what legacy are we leaving the country? How will people think about us in the future? What are we doing for the cultural and spiritual development of the citizens of this country? And so the private sector more and more starts to be open to, tell us more about sustainable development goals. So for instance, just to give you a concrete example, in a month's time, I and some of my team will go and we will sit with the CEOs of Sovico Group. Sovico Group represents HD Bank, Vietjet Airlines, etc., etc., etc. And we will discuss with them responsible business. We'll have a retreat and we are going to discuss about responsible business. Because Sovico Group starts to understand, like other business understand, sustainability is the future of business. And if your business is sustainable, your business is going to be, it's no longer just a sort of a charity thing or even a CSR thing. That sustainability is the key to success in future business. And so the leaders within the private sector in Vietnam now are opening up to this. And so this is something that actually I think it's not a bad point to conclude on. Because in so many ways now, the private sector is now becoming open to becoming more of a partner in development, in tourism, in culture, in education as well. And so and so for us, this is what the Partnerships Through Progress is all about. And I should probably thank you very much, because that has actually been the perfect question in a way to kind of close on, because it's very important, that connection with the private sector. So bringing the private sector in as a partner in sustainable development is key, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who establish the facts on the ground.
Thank you.